Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a book that really slaps you awake, you know,
Yeah.
challenges ideas you thought were settled.
Right.
And it's been called brilliant and, well, disastrous, sometimes in the same breath.
Yeah, it definitely pushes buttons, forces you to look at things differently.
And it's a novel, maybe surprisingly, about architecture, but it just became this huge cultural phenomenon.
That's a key thing our sources really zero in on.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today. Ayn Rand's first big success, The Fountainhead,
Hmm.
from way back in 1943.
Yeah, and to, get a clear handle on it quickly, because it is complex, definitely controversial, we've pulled from, well, a stack of sources.
hmm
Academic analyses, research papers, historical context, critical reviews, the works.
Think of this as your shortcut, basically. Getting the essence of the book through the eyes of people who've really studied it.
Our mission here is just to pull out the most important points, sort of unpack the core ideas driving the story.
And introduce you to the key characters, the ones who really embody those ideas, and look at the lasting impact this novel had, which is significant.
Right. And straight away, what the sources really emphasize is that The Fountainhead is like pure Rand. It's her style, her philosophy, just laid out in fiction.
It details the struggle of this fiercely independent architect.
Yeah, and it's seen very much as an idea novel, meaning the plot, the characters, they're built specifically to explore these philosophical themes.
It's seen as a direct commentary on this fundamental split,
Yeah.
this division in society.
That tension between individuality and conformity or collectivism.
Which brings us right to the heart of it, doesn't it? The core conflict.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
sources consistently nail this down as individualism versus collectivism.
And not just politics, right? It's framed as something deeper.
Exactly. A battle within a man's soul, as one source puts it. The novel clearly reflects Rand's belief, her very strong belief that individualism is superior.
It's pretty striking, too, that it was written during the Depression, during World War II, huge global events.
Right. But the novel deliberately kind of sidesteps direct talk about politics or world affairs.
The focus stays laser sharp on this internal conflict.
Yeah, totally. It's boiled down to one man against the system, according to the sources.
And this conflict really comes alive through the main characters Rand creates and the choices they make.
Stark choices, yeah. Leading the charge is the protagonist, Howard Rourke.
Rourke. The sources consistently call him Rand's projection of an ideal man.
Mm-hmm. He's designed to embody her core egoistic moral ideals. The idea that your main moral purpose is your own happiness, your rational self-interest.
His defining traits being independence and just absolute integrity.
And his architecture reflects that, doesn't it?
Totally. The sources describe it for Rourke. The building's purpose, the site, the materials. That's what dictates the shape.
A building is alive, he thinks. It has integrity, just like a person should.
So his work is this radical rejection of convention, of tradition, working free from the tyranny of the past.
And what makes him so, well, compelling or maybe challenging for some is that unanswering integrity, that serene self-esteem.
He's just supremely confident, never questions his own worth, his own vision.
Yeah, his motivation is purely his own. He wants to change the world, but crucially, for myself.
It's interesting the real-world links people try to make.
Oh, yeah, the Frank Lloyd Wright connection.
Rand admitted being inspired by Wright's ideas, his career struggles.
But she denied anything deeper personally, and Wright himself apparently was like, nope, not me.
Some sources also suggest maybe the Corbusier.
Yeah, there are debates, but the way Rand writes him is also very deliberate.
How so?
Well, the sources say she actually stripped out explicit descriptions of his inner thoughts, his changing emotions, from the final draft.
Really? So he comes across as stable.
Remarkably stable, predominantly happy, always essentially himself. You often see his inner world reflected through other people's eyes, especially early on.
Which is a perfect lead-in to his complete opposite, his foil, Peter Keating.
Ah, Keating,
Yeah.
Rourke's old classmate. And yeah, absolutely essential for contrast.
If Rourke is the ideal.
Keating is everything Rand rejected. He's what she called a second-hander.
And the sources explain that means someone who lives entirely for what others think.
Exactly. Fame, approval, opinions, no internal values. He climbs the social ladder using flattery, manipulation.
He even steals Rourke's ideas.
Oh, yeah. And his life, unlike Rourke's calm certainty, is just constant inner conflict, no personal values.
He actively chooses to escape the responsibility of consciousness, as Rand puts it.
Right. He lets others, especially Ellsworth Toohey, do his thinking for him.
And Rand really plays up this contrast in the writing style, too.
Definitely. We get deep dives into Keating's swirling emotions, his shifting thoughts, totally unlike Rourke's steadiness.
And his architecture follows suit, all classical, designed to impress.
Yeah, stark contrast to Rourke's functional integrity-first style and Keating's relationships. Dishonest, transactional. Not like the trust Rourke finds.
So Keating's misery, his loneliness, that's meant to show the outcome of living for others.
That's what the sources suggest, yeah. The result of abandoning rational self-interest, or what would become objectivism.
Okay, so beyond Rourke and Keating, there are these other key players who embody different facets of the conflict.
Right, really drive the ideas home. Ellsworth Toohey is a big one.
He's described as Rand's personification of evil, the main villain.
Pretty much. He represents collectivism, but not just politically. He wants power by crushing individual self-worth.
Promoting altruism and egalitarianism as weapons.
Yeah, he manipulates people, events,
Yeah.
like setting up that Stoddard Temple Commission specifically to trap Rourke.
Nasty piece of work. Then there's Gale Wynand.
The powerful newspaper guy rises by giving the public exactly what they want. Pandering.
He has some Rourke-like qualities, though, doesn't he? Strength, vision.
He does, but his fatal flaw is that dependence on public approval. That's what ultimately destroys him and makes him betray Rourke.
So he's another kind of second-hander, focused on power over others.
Precisely. And then Dominique Frimson.
Rourke's lover, the heroine, but very controversial.
Fiercely independent, recognizes Rourke's greatness instantly, but she's deeply pessimistic.
Believes the world will just crush anything good.
Right. Which leads her to do these incredibly contradictory things, sometimes supporting Rourke, sometimes undermining him.
Marrying Keating is self-punishment,
Yeah.
then marrying Wynand.
Yeah, it's complex. The sources see her as unique in Rand's fiction, embodying high individualism, but also grappling with this despair.
Okay, we absolutely have to talk about that scene, the one at the quarry,
Yeah.
the sexual encounter.
Yeah. That scene gets strong reactions, and the sources show the whole range of interpretations.
Within the book itself, Dominique calls it rape.
She does. And feminist critics pick up on that, condemning the scene. They see it as endorsing rape, portraying women as wanting humiliation, being subservient.
Some sources mention critics calling Rand a traitor to her own sex, seeing it as sadomasochistic.
Yeah, the criticism is harsh. But then you have Rand's perspective.
She denied it was rape in the novel's context.
She did. Controversially called it rape by engraved invitation. Argued Dominique wanted it, all but invited it because of her psychology and attraction. Pointed to details like her scratching the marble.
As evidence of desire.
That was her argument. And defenders of the novel often agree with her take. They say the text shows Dominique's strong attraction, suggesting a very complex form of consent despite the violence.
Okay, so multiple, very conflicting views there.
Absolutely. And just to be crystal clear, we're laying out these different interpretations as they appear in the sources. We're not endorsing any single view here.
Right. Important distinction. Okay, moving beyond that specific moment, let's talk philosophy.
Because while it's not like a formal treatise...
It's definitely an idea novel. Sources say it illustrates the early seeds of objectivism, her later philosophy.
Yeah, key ideas pop up constantly. Rational self-interest, pursuing your own well-being is moral.
Man's ethical purpose being sustaining his own life.
Right. And that you must be the beneficiary of your own actions. All within this framework of an objective moral code based on reason, not faith or society.
Sources often mention her background too, don't they? Her father's business destroyed by communists in Russia.
As a possible catalyst, yeah. But her rejection of altruism and her embrace of laissez-faire capitalism basically leave us alone.
And Rourke's big trial speech at the end, that's highlighted as the key moment.
Oh, definitely. It sums up everything. Independence, ego, creativity, versus that whole second-handedness thing.
And the plot itself just maps this conflict playing out.
Totally. Rourke's struggles after being expelled, Keating's rise through conformity.
Yeah, his smear campaigns,
Yeah.
the lawsuit over the Stoddard Temple.
Which Rourke dynamites when they change his design.
Right, and Dominique's testimony at that trial? Complex stuff. Arguably defending him while testifying against him.
It's tangled. He loses that case initially. Then she marries Keating, then Wynand, but secretly stays connected to Rourke.
You see Wynand's genuine friendship with Rourke.
And then the gut-wrenching betrayal when public opinion turns on Rourke for good.
The climax being Rourke dynamiting the Cortlandt Housing Project. His final speech.
And acquittal this time.
Then marriage to Dominique, finally, and Winans' last act.
Commissioning Rourke to build that skyscraper. A monument to the human spirit Winan couldn't quite live up to himself.
So what's the legacy of a book like this? It wasn't an easy birth, was it?
No, the publication journey is a story itself. She really struggled to find a publisher.
Rejected multiple times, until Archibald Ogden and Bobbs Merrill really went to bat for it.
Yeah, that famous telegram, "If this is not the book for you, then I am not the editor for you."
Wow. Talk about conviction.
It paid off. Sales were slow at first, but then word of mouth kicked in.
Became a massive bestseller like 2 years after publication.
Yeah, and it just kept selling. Sources say over 10 million copies now. Still sells strongly.
That kind of reach leaves a big footprint.
Yeah.
It's become this core text for conservatives, libertarians.
Uh-huh. And interestingly, sources say actual architects have cited it as inspiration. It's even shaped how the public thinks about architecture.
You see nods to it in pop culture, the film adaptation, stage plays.
Right. And crucially, its success acted like a magnet. It drew in this core group of admirers, people really taken with the ideas.
They became the nucleus of the objectivist movement.
Exactly. When Rand moved back to New York, they formed this group to study and promote her philosophy, taking it way beyond just this one novel.
So we've done a pretty deep dive into the Fountainhead here. Explored those core themes, individualism versus collectivism, through characters like Rourke and Keating.
Touched on the controversial bits like the quarry scene and traced its significant influence.
Looking at Rand's world, her characters, those really stark choices they face, it might make you pause, right? Think about your own values.
Yeah. How much of what you do is driven by your own convictions versus, what others expect? How you define integrity, success for yourself?
There's that line from the novel, highlighted in one source. To sell your soul is the easiest thing in the world. That's what everybody does every hour of his life.
If I asked you to keep your soul, would you understand why that's much harder?
Yeah. It really makes you think, especially today, with all the pressures.
What does it actually mean for you right now to keep your soul?